Hello everyone and welcome to Motorcast. I'm your host Matty Bolton. Today we're going to be talking through the top 3 teams of testing, Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull. And joining me today is everyone's favourite Slovenian Beni and everyone's favourite other Matt, apart from me, Matt212. So, let's jump into this. And of course Ferrari have been very much on the pace. So Beni, do you think this pace is actual? Do you think they can take this up to Mercedes and possibly go for the championship?
Well, it's gonna be close, definitely, but before we get to Australia, it's definitely gonna remain a mystery who was sandbagging, who wasn't. But according to Mercedes, Ferrari look quick, and according to Ferrari, Mercedes look quick, so I do think that some of Ferrari's pace is genuine, and they are probably gonna be one of the top 2 teams, as Red Bull hasn't shown quite as much as they have in 2016. And we still don't know what Mercedes are going to do. So my prediction is probably Ferrari and Mercedes for the top 2, with both teams looking rock solid in terms of reliability and long run pace.
Well, like you touched on there, each team seems to be pointing at each other and saying, no, you're fastest, no, you're fastest. Sort of like a nice complimentary circle. Matt, do you think there's a lot of sandbagging going on here? Or do you think the pace they're showing is absolutely genuine?
I think when it comes to Ferrari, they are definitely sandbagging. They're not sandbagging very much at the moment, as much as I think a lot of Ferrari fans want to believe. Now, obviously, they've still been doing incredibly quick laps, I think, on the super soft tyres. So there's still a lot of pace that they have got still in that car, and I'll be surprised if they're not fighting for wins.
Well, I mean, there has been the kind of little rumour going around that Ferrari have been running quite a low fuel compared to the other cars, but of course it's just rumours and you can't really look into them too much. The only chance we'll get of seeing if the cars are actually sandbagging or not is once we get to Australia. So now on to Mercedes. Like you said, Beni, Mercedes were kind of saying that Ferrari were quickest, but I mean, considering how Mercedes have been over the last few years, you surely can't rule them out, can you?
Well, in the turbo era, I think since the turbo era started, you can never rule out Mercedes. They've always had rock solid reliability with, if anything goes wrong with their engine, it's really weird. And they've always been quick, with this year's car being it's quite neatly and everything. And the rear is very tightly packaged, I think most tightly packaged of the rest, but it is interesting to see that Toro Rosso, one of the midfield teams, their car in some aspects does look quite similar, and I think that Toro Rosso also had the same ideas of where to get aerodynamic grip. So Mercedes definitely looking as one of the top teams this season again, probably one of the top 2. So it's gonna be It might be one team dominating, or it's going to be a top fight in the top 2.
And if it is a fight between the top 2, Matt, Bottas or Hamilton, who do you think so far has shown the promise to become this year's world champion? Should it be an all Mercedes fight?
Hamilton, definitely, my personal opinion. You know, he's been with the team long enough now. He'll probably be far more grounded in the team. I think Bottas definitely has got a lot to prove this year, and if he comes at the blocks running, he could hassle Hamilton a lot more than I think most people want to believe. But at the end of the day, my money would always be on Hamilton. You can't argue against 3 world titles.
Despite the fact that Bottas has been consistently faster than him?
Despite that, because Bottas has been doing a lot of shorter runs there, that's the thing. Hamilton's been doing a lot of long runs over the course of the 2 weeks, so I think Hamilton still is where my money's on.
I mean, Bottas has also done more laps.
My money's on Hamilton.
Of course, Hamilton did have it's a morning or something, or he's had a little bit of disruption to his testing timetable, but not too much. And as you probably are all aware, Mercedes completely blitzing the distance charts. Done over 1,000 laps and over 5,000 kilometres. So I don't think reliability is going to be a particular issue for them. So sort of the outsider, I guess, to this is Red Bull, who perhaps promised a bit more from testing. Do you think, Matt? Do you think that they should have shown more considering how they were last season?
Red Bull, I think it's been interesting for them because you wonder how many parts, for example, they've really had to focus on developing. Obviously, we saw the bit of an interesting front wing that they're trying to use, so it's clear they're trying to take creative risks with the car. Now, I think really they could probably get most of the parts that Ferrari and Mercedes have on the car and probably be just as quick, but they're trying to experiment with different things moving into this season to see if they can find the edge, and I just don't think they've really managed to click it together just yet.
Well, as you say, I mean, that there's trying to be as fast as Mercedes, and then there's trying to experiment your way to be even faster, so I don't blame them for going down the kind of route of just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So if that it's pretty much what everyone's got to do at this point, because Mercedes and Ferrari seem to be running away with it slightly. So obviously they've got a very good driver pairing with Verstappen and Ricciardo. Beni, do you think they'll be able to work as well? I mean, they had a few little rough spells last season, but do you think they'll be able to work as well on a whole as they did last season?
Well, it's a tough question, as Max is still a teenager and he could be quite unpredictable as how he's gonna react to certain things, and he has last season shown quite a few times that he can piss off a lot of drivers. So I remember in Belgium when he was the reason why the first corner crash happened, and then he also moved down the straight while trying to block Kimi, which was extremely dangerous and everything. But Ricciardo's just a laid-back guy, so he just does his racing thing. I think it's gonna be a good working pairing until Max decides and Max does something stupid to Ricciardo, and after that, who knows what's gonna happen.
I mean, you say Ricciardo's a pretty laid-back guy, and obviously for the most part he is, but I think at Monaco last season we definitely saw a different streak to him. Just once race wins are on the line, and perhaps strategies get a little bit mixed up. He did show a lot of resentment towards his team, and a lot of he really looked like a man who had been betrayed. And Beni, do you think this Red Bull strategy is gonna hinder them, perhaps, along those lines? Because they had a certain race win in Monaco and they kind of threw it away. Do you think they'll have learned from their mistakes?
Well, Mark, that was really a weird race, but in terms of just touching upon Ricciardo after the race, I think he was just frustrated and mainly in the moment because he knows that he had the race won, but the team just had the bad moment at the time. But I think Red Bull are a good team, and as a team they do work well most of the time, just like every team, but they can mess up just like anyone because they're just humans. So
yeah, of course. although if you look between the years of 2010 and 2013, you would perhaps not think so. In that, they work slightly too well together. So Matt, do you think Red Bull have the opportunity of getting wins this season?
I think we might see a similar style to what we saw last year when it comes to Red Bull, where the first part of the season it was clear that the Ferrari car was quicker. Obviously they got that win at Spain anyway, but it was obviously we saw the Mercedes collide and that was basically what caused it. But we saw definitely, apart from obviously Monaco as well, we definitely saw a upturn in the Red Bull pace, and I think we might see that in the second part of the season where they'll come to Spa and they will have a lot quicker car. So I think in the second half of the season they could definitely be fighting for wins more often than not, but I think in the first half of the season they might struggle to. They'll still be obviously on the podium, but I don't think in the first half there they won't be fighting for wins.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because of course pre-season testing is pretty much only accurate for probably up to the first half of the season, because then after that it's then the upgrades game. So like you said, Red Bull will probably come in with a major upgrade and possibly catch up to Mercedes and Ferrari. If they're not massively sandbagging, which of course it could be, but I think 8/10 or whatever is a bit of a big chance you're taking for sandbagging. Okay, so we're gonna go for a little few predictions here, and we're gonna first off go for Australia. I want I'll start off with Beni. I want your prediction for pole position and the race win.
It's hard to decide between Ferrari and Mercedes, but well, my Ferrari bias tells me that Ferrari are still sandbagging a bit, and that they'll definitely get the pole position and the race win, with Mercedes quite close, and Red Bull, I'm not quite sure with what I should say for Red Bull. They are definitely the third quickest team on the grid at the moment, but I'm just not sure with their reliability. I think they've had a few problems with their Renault powertrain, so they're probably gonna finish, but towards the end of the season they might have problems with engine parts. So Ferrari for pole position and the win. I think pole position Kimi, because he's shown a lot of one lap pace towards the end of the season, with the win going to Seb.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have put Kimi on for pole, but the stats don't lie. He's been pretty quick through testing. So Matt, same question to you: pole position and the race win in Australia.
I'm gonna put Hamilton on pole and the race win, but I think we'll see Bottas second on the grid. But I reckon he's gonna lose out to both Ferraris over the course of the race. So I'm gonna put Raikkonen in second and Sebastian in third, I think.
Interesting. So we've got two completely differing views from two pretty biased sets of fans.
So, what about you, Matty?
Okay, I'm gonna have to be the middle ground here. I think I'm gonna go with Bottas for pole. But I'd like to see Raikkonen win. So I'm going the complete opposite to you both there. Obviously, it's very early to go on talking about the championship, both constructors and drivers. But as it is now, who do you see perhaps winning either of those? We'll start with Matt.
I'm gonna put Mercedes and Hamilton for the drivers, but I reckon Ferrari might edge them out in constructors. I think we're going to see a driver not win the constructors this year.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Well, I'll just let that one sink in a little bit. Beni, same question to you.
That's a tough one. Well, yeah, I think Ferrari this season might just keep up with the pace of development, and they are gonna win both championships with Sebastian taking his 5th title.
Okay, and that will be equal number 5 for Mr. Number 5 in that case. So I think we've been pretty comprehensive there for the top 3 teams. Unfortunately, no Red Bull sympathy for the championship or the race wins in Australia. But I think there'll come a time during the season. I think you'll both agree that Red Bull will probably come strong. So I'd just like to thank everyone for watching.
What
here.
about your predictions?
You can follow Motorcast on Twitter. Oh, my predictions don't matter. Okay. I'll go with. I'd like to see Ferrari win, if I'm honest. I'm not sure if I'll go with my heart. For once, I'll go with my heart. So I'll go with Kimi for the title, just because I want that to happen. And
I admire your optimism.
He's going to have one last season. He's then going to retire, and then there's going to start a whole thing of F1 drivers retiring when they win F1 championships. That's been us. Thank you for watching Motorcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Motorcast_. You can follow all of us on Twitter or YouTube or whatever you want. Links are of course in the description. And make sure to join Motorcast for the review of the Australian Grand Prix, amongst many other race series. Of course, we've got MotoGP, GP2, GP3, BTCC coming up. We've got many different formulas and race series which are being covered, and we'd just like to thank you for watching. So until next time, we'll catch you later. Goodbye.